The Cassandra was not built for glory. She was not sleek, not fast, and certainly not beautiful. She was a functional thing, a long silvered spine of hull plates bolted to a sequence of swollen habitation modules, laboratories, and storage drums. She resembled a child's crude sketch of a fishbone drifting in the lightless ocean between stars. The science journals back home had called her the frontier's most advanced microbiology research vessel. The crew, with affection, simply called her the Can. At the moment, the Can was orbiting a gas giant the color of old ivory. It rolled lazily beneath them, the way a great ancient whale might roll in a deep current, indifferent to the tiny things clinging to its skin. Its storms were the size of continents, but so slow they seemed to barely move. Pale cyclones spiraling endlessly, their centers black as ink. If you stared long enough, you might believe the planet was staring back. Captain Eva Lourdes stood on the bridge, staring at nothing in particular. Her hair was pulled back in a knot that would have looked severe on anyone else, but on her, angular and tall, with eyes like polished slate, it just looked efficient. Efficiency was her religion, not the bland kind preached in bureaucratic manuals, but the sharp kind, the kind you bled for. The bridge was quiet, except for the drone of the primary reactor and the occasional polite ping from the navigation AI. The gas giant's light, filtered through kilometers of ammonia and methane clouds, gave the crew's faces a faint corpse-like tint. Space does that to you, robs you of the colors you're used to, and replaces them with the colors you didn't ask for. Then the comms officer's console chirped. Not the usual data received chime, but something far more unsettling. Code black. Priority 1. This was not the kind of thing you ignored. The message arrived as pure text, stripped of preamble. Scuttle the Cassandra. All hands. No questions. There was a pause, as though the words themselves had sucked all the air out of the bridge. One could almost hear the thoughts behind each face. Is this a joke? Is this a drill? Who did what to deserve this? Eva read it twice. The third time was unnecessary. The words were already burned into her vision like the afterimage of a welding torch. "Read it again," muttered First Officer James, a stocky man whose voice always sounded like it had just woken from a nap. "No need," Eva said. "We all saw it." Some captains would have immediately opened a channel to Fleet Command to demand clarification. Eva was not some captains. She knew Fleet Command. They didn't clarify, they dictated. She dismissed the crew, told them to maintain current orbit. She stayed on the bridge long after they'd left, staring at the pale giant below. Fleet Command didn't waste ships like the Cassandra. They didn't kill 24 trained personnel for no reason, and they certainly didn't do it in the middle of a years-long multi-billion credit mission without explaining why. Which meant one thing. The reason was bad enough that explaining it would be worse than killing everyone involved. And if that was the case, Eva suspected she'd rather know. That night, in the privacy of her quarters, she activated her personal log. Not the official ship log. This was encrypted, buried, masked under layers of decoy files. She said, "Private log. Timestamp 0411 standard ship time. Fleet Command has ordered our destruction. No cause given, no follow-up. Crew unaware of full gravity. I suspect containment, possible contamination. No symptoms reported yet. Will monitor." Her eyes flicked briefly toward the sealed container on her desk.
a transparent cylinder filled with a pale mist that seemed to swirl without air currents. Within it, floating in nutrient gel, was the subject of their current study, specimen Theta 5, an alien spore retrieved from the ice crust of Kepler 442b's innermost moon. It had been dormant for eons until their instruments thawed it. Now it pulsed faintly, like a tiny heartbeat. She watched it for a while, her reflection rippling in the gel. The spore did not move. It never moved. And yet, Eva had the strangest feeling that it was looking at her.
The first child born on the Cassandra was supposed to be a cause for celebration, a marker of human tenacity, proof that even in the vast coal between suns, life could be carried, nurtured, and brought screaming into existence. Instead, it became the first whisper of something far stranger. It happened on the 42nd day after the edict. The crew had, predictably, not followed Eva's suggestion to keep morale steady. Humans in isolation always find a way to ferment unease into something sharper. Jokes about the order to scuttle became half-serious theories. Half-serious theories became rumors, and rumors bloomed into full-blown paranoia. The corridors felt narrower, the air a little thinner. Life support cycles were normal, rations were unchanged. The spore in its gel container remained exactly as before, pale, dormant, harmless, as if it were the universe's least interesting rock. But people, Eva noted grimly, were never as inert as they claimed to be. The medbay announcement came at 03 ship time. "Captain, you're going to want to see this." Eva arrived to find Dr. Leon Merrick, the ship's medical officer, standing over a bassinet. The new mother, a communications specialist named Marin, was still sedated, her breathing soft and regular. The child inside the bassinet was utterly still, as though carved from onyx. Its eyes were open. Not in the way newborns usually open their eyes, milky, unfocused, uncertain. These eyes were polished black spheres, perfectly smooth, drinking in the light without a single reflection. You could look into them forever and never find the bottom. Eva felt her skin tighten. Is there something wrong with its pupils? Dr. Merrick didn't look up. There are no pupils. The child did not blink. Instead, it moved its gaze, a slow, precise tilt of the head toward the ceiling. No sound had prompted it, no light shift, just an unwavering lock on some point that no one else could see. "Blind?" Eva asked. "Not in any conventional sense," Merrick said, voice clipped. "It doesn't respond to light at all, but it follows movement. Not ours. Something else." Eva took a step closer, and for an instant she could have sworn the baby's gaze slid over her. Not looked at her, through her, as though she were an arrangement of transparent organs and bone, not a person. In that moment, Eva understood something ancient and uncomfortable. This child was not looking at the world. It was looking at whatever lay beneath the world. The news did not stay confined to medbay. By the next rotation, every crew member knew. Some were simply curious, peeking into medbay between shifts as if visiting a rare animal in a zoo. Others kept their distance, whispering in doorways. The theories multiplied. Radiation from the gas giant, mutagenic exposure from the spore samples, unreported complications from pregnancy in 0G. A few muttered the word contagion like it was an incantation.
Eva called an emergency meeting. She kept her face neutral as the crew shouted over each other. She didn't tell them about the edict. Not yet. But she saw it in their eyes. The knowledge that something irreversible had already happened. As the meeting ended, she caught Dr. Merrick's gaze. The doctor's eyes were tired, but her expression was almost serene. Eva didn't like that at all.
The infection didn't announce itself with fever or rash, no vomiting blood, no cinematic coughing fits. It began, instead, with a quiet rearranging of reality, the sort of thing you'd blame on fatigue, stress, or the fact that you'd been staring at the same four walls in deep space for half a decade. Engineer Rafe Keston was the first to report symptoms. At least, that's what the crew would later call them. At the time, they were just oddities. He was a large man, built like he'd been designed to carry crates rather than repair plasma relays. His shaved scalp gleamed under the ship's lights, and he had a habit of humming to himself while working. In the days before the change, the humming stopped. What replaced it was a silence that didn't seem entirely his own. When he finally recorded an entry in his maintenance log, it arrived corrupted. Fragments of voice layered with static, sentences breaking off mid-thought, and strange distortions that made his voice sound like it was speaking in a room slightly too large for his body. Look at my hands. Just meat. Wrong colors. Screaming red, all of it. A pause. Metal clatters in the background. The men. They're worse. All noise, like standing inside a furnace with teeth. Static. Then his voice again, quieter. But her, the doctor. God, she's a cathedral. Pillars of gold and white, stretching forever. I can see the lattice, every cell like stained glass. She's holy.
His breathing accelerates, ragged and strange. I'm just mud. The log cut out there. Eva listened to it 3 times in her quarters. The words crawled under her skin. The metaphor was clumsy, but the emotion was not. It was raw, as if Rafe had been allowed to see some essential truth and discovered it was grotesque. The more troubling part was that Dr. Merrick had, in fact, been spending long hours alone in medbay, long hours with the child. Eva visited engineering the next day to check on Rafe. He was at his station, moving slowly as though underwater. He smiled when she approached, a lazy, lopsided thing, and for the briefest moment his gaze seemed to glide past her, as if adjusting to some invisible outline. "Captain," he said, "you look better today. Less static." She didn't ask him what he meant. She didn't want the answer. That night, Eva dreamed of the baby's eyes, vast, black, bottomless. And in their depths, she thought she saw shapes moving, luminous and slow, like leviathans drifting in a deeper sea than any human could swim.
Dr. Leon Merrick had always been composed to the point of irritation. She treated medicine the way a clockmaker treats gears, with precision, detachment, and a faint suggestion that if you broke yourself, it was rather rude to expect her to fix it. Her private log, however, was different now. Gone was the crisp, clinical tone of her daily entries. In its place came something softer, almost melodic. the cadence of a woman speaking from a cathedral balcony to an empty congregation. "I woke to the sound of breathing," her voice said in the log, "but it wasn't mine. The walls breathe, the corridors hum in resonance with the skin. I can see the air, Captain. I can see the shapes between the atoms. The void is not empty. It's threaded with light so fine it makes spider silk look crude." She spoke of her own body in a way that was unsettlingly reverent. She described the curve of her ribs as arches in a divine hall, her heartbeat as the engine of a star, her womb as a machine for the continuation of beauty. "The parasite," she continued, "is not a parasite. It is an invitation. It has no hunger as you understand it. It wants to show us what we are without the distortion of flesh. The men, they're discordant, Captain. Their energy is jagged, aggressive, self-colliding. The women, we're symphonic. We carry the pattern. We carry the future." Eva stopped the playback there, staring at her desk. It wasn't the words themselves. Scientists had fallen in love with their research before. It was the serenity, the utter absence of fear. She restarted the log. "Fleet Command is afraid. They understand it only enough to fear it. The spore's signal is not chemical, not viral. It's thought, broadcast. To see is to be changed. To be changed is to be freed." She laughed then, a soft, almost embarrassed sound. "We're not meant to study life. We're meant to become it." Eva closed the file and leaned back in her chair, staring at the sealed spore cylinder across the room. It was still the same pale mote in gel, still perfectly still. And yet, she could have sworn it was pulsing in time with her own heartbeat.
Eva stepped through the doors into a soft, golden radiance that pulsed between the leaves. Dr. Merrick stood at the far end, flanked by half a dozen female crew members, each cradling a newborn whose black eyes drank in the light greedily. "I wondered when you'd come," Merrick said, her voice calm, almost indulgent. Eva kept her sidearm low, but ready. "This ends now. The ship will be destroyed. That's an order from Fleet Command." Merrick smiled faintly. "Fleet Command already knows, Captain. The spore is telepathic. Its influence spreads with a single glimpse. Even this conversation, you're closer than you think." As if on cue, one of the babies shifted, tilting its head toward Eva. Black eyes locked with hers. The universe fell away. She saw the structure beneath reality, threads of light weaving through every molecule, vast rivers of energy bending around stars. She saw her own body as crude scaffolding, a temporary shadow of something more intricate. She saw the parasite's pattern, a symphony of perfect eternal harmony, erasing the jagged, painful noise of individuality. She saw peace. She saw unity. She saw the end of everything that made her human. The vision was beautiful, and it was the most horrifying thing she had ever witnessed. "No," Eva whispered, the word a ragged tear in the perfect silence of the bay. "Why choose pain, Eva?" The thought was not her own. It was Merrick's, the baby's, the ship's. It was a chorus of serene logic in her own mind. "Why choose the dark when we offer you the light?" "Because the dark is ours," she grunted and turned and ran from the bay. The women did not pursue. They simply watched, their faces filled with a profound and patient pity, as if watching a loved one choose to drown. As Eva sprinted through the corridors, the ship itself seemed to work against her. Doors hissed shut moments too late.
Lights flickered, trying to show her the golden thread she was now blind to. The air itself felt thick with the hum of the parasite's disappointment. She burst onto the bridge. It was empty, silent. Her destination was a small, reinforced panel next to the captain's chair, marked with a single stark symbol, a skull. The manual override for the reactor's magnetic containment, the final, irreversible scuttle command. "You're choosing oblivion over enlightenment," the voice in her head soothed. "You're choosing an ending over a beginning." "I'm choosing a clean slate," she snarled, her hand hovering over the panel. She could feel the parasite's influence like a warm blanket, promising to take the burden from her, promising to make the choice for her, promising peace. With a scream that was entirely her own, she smashed the emergency casing with the butt of her pistol. Her fingers found the two cold metal keys inside. With the serene faces of the newborns burned into her mind, she turned them both. The ship's AI, a calm male voice she hadn't heard in weeks, spoke for the last time. "Self-destruct sequence initiated. Reactor overload in 60 seconds. Farewell, Captain." The golden light in the corners of her vision sputtered and died, replaced by the angry pulsing red of emergency alerts. For the first time in days, Eva Lourdes was alone in her own head.
200,000 kilometers away, the picket ship Vigil held its position. It was a tiny, sharp-edged thing, little more than an engine with a sensor array in a cockpit, a greyhound sent to watch a wolf's den. Its mission was simple and absolute: confirm the fate of the Cassandra. Inside, Lieutenant Kalen stared at his monitor, his expression bored. For 3 days they had watched the same scene, the long fishbone silhouette of the Cassandra drifting silently against the pale, swirling canvas of the ivory gas giant. No communications, no engine burns, just a ghost ship hanging in the void. "Anything?" Commander Thorne asked from the seat behind him, not looking up from his own datapad. "Same as yesterday, sir. Minimal life support readings. Zero comms activity. She's dark." Thorne grunted. "Fleet Command wants confirmation. If they don't follow the edict in the next 12 hours, we are authorized to—" He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. Kalen nodded, his eyes fixed on the distant ship. He felt a pang of something, maybe pity for the 24 souls aboard the Cassandra, condemned by an order they would never understand. He zoomed the optical sensor, trying to see something, anything, but there was only the cold, silent vessel. And then it happened. It wasn't a sound. It wasn't even an explosion in the traditional sense. For a fraction of a second, a light bloomed from the center of the Cassandra, a light so pure and so absolute it seemed to burn a hole in reality itself. It was the color of a star's heart, a silent, instantaneous flash that overwhelmed every sensor on the Vigil. The screen whited out, screaming with proximity warnings. Kalen threw his arm up to shield his eyes. A moment later, the light was gone. The screen slowly resolved. Where the Cassandra had been, there was nothing, not even wreckage. Just an expanding, faintly iridescent cloud of superheated gas already dissipating into the void. The great ancient eye of the gas giant swirled on, utterly indifferent. The silence in the cockpit was heavy. "Log the event," Thorne said, his voice flat, all business. "Time-stamped 2147. The research vessel Cassandra has been scuttled via nuclear detonation per Fleet Command 7 Echo Black." Kalen's fingers moved stiffly over the console, his heart hammering against his ribs. "Logged, sir."
Thorne stared at the empty space on the screen for a long moment before speaking again. "And send the all-clear burst to Sector Command. Tell them the quarantine holds."